right, welcome back. Okay, great. Now that you have access to this video with some of the public speaking tips, let me give you about 3, 4, 5 really quick, easy things that you can do to look more comfortable in front of a group as well as to feel more comfortable in front of the group. The very first thing you want to keep in mind about public speaking fear is that everybody has it. About 95% of the population has some type of public speaking fear. And what happens is you see other people get up in front of a group and they look pretty good, they look pretty confident, but inside they're just as nervous as you are. And the reason why that is because most of the stuff that happens to us when we get nervous are things that the audience isn't going to see anyway. Things like, you know, those butterflies that you get in your stomach, where you feel, sometimes it may be so severe that you feel like you're going to throw up. Well, there's no way the audience is ever going to see that. The other thing, like our heart starts beating really quickly, and when your heart starts beating faster, the audience won't see that either, right? When your heart starts beating faster, it actually does a couple of weird things to your body as well. It actually makes you breathe more shallowly, which, you know, can affect your, when your breath is affected, obviously it's going to affect some of the things that you do and the way that you speak. But the big thing that it does is it cuts down on the oxygen that you're getting to your brain, and it makes you feel more cloudy. So a lot of times folks will get up in front of a group, and because their heart's beating faster and they feel nervous, they'll start to kind of lose their train of thought and that kind of thing. Just keep in mind that anytime any of those things are happening to you, they're all internal. They're things that the audience isn't going to know. In fact, the only way the audience is going to know that you've lost your train of thought is if you tell them. So that's one of the really big things to kind of keep in mind about public speaking fear is that, you know, although you may be feeling it, the audience probably isn't going to see it. And that'll give you a lot of confidence too, because what tends to happen is we're on stage maybe, we're in a meeting, a staff meeting or something, and 2 or 3 other people are speaking. First 2 people get up, and they look really cool and confident, and then we get up, and man, I'm basket case, and then the next guy gets up, and he looks great too, and I'm going, God, why am I the only one? Why am I the only one that's feeling nervous? Well, there's a good chance that those other 3 people probably felt nervous too, and they didn't look any more nervous than what you do. So now the thing that we do in the Fearless Presentations class, though, is we know that you're going to, even if you're feeling nervous, that just because the audience can't see it doesn't necessarily mean you're not feeling it, right? So one of the things that we really focus on for the first probably 2-3 hours or so of the class is helping you reduce that nervousness so that you think more clearly, so that you communicate more effectively, so that you're more in control and more confident when you stand up to speak. A couple of things that we spend a lot of time on very early in the class, and really the whole second day of the 2-day Fearless Presentations class, is the second tip. The second thing that you can do to reduce your nervousness is to never ever write your presentation word for word. A lot of times people think that's going to make them feel more comfortable if they kind of write it out longhand and then recite it, because what tends to happen is if you write your presentation out, you're most likely going to try to read it. And reading a speech it doesn't matter how good of an actor you are, it doesn't really matter how good of a speaker you are, it's going to make you sound monotone and kind of boring. And so rather than write your speech out and by the way, just so you know, in the olden days, you know, back before we had PowerPoint and that kind of thing, when folks would write out their speech, they'd write it out on a legal pad, or they would, you know, put 3x5 cards and put all their notes on the 3x5 cards, that kind of thing. Nowadays, since we're so high tech, we just write our presentation pretty much word for word on bullet points in our slideshow. Same thing, it's the same technique. We think that if it's up on the slideshow, it'll make it to where I won't forget it. The problem with that is, though, is if all you're doing is just putting a bullet point up there and you got so much content that it's really difficult to speak it to the audience, it's going to get you confused, and probably you're most likely going to lose your train of thought, and when that happens, panic is going to set in, right? So basically, what we do in the Fearless Presentations class is we spend the whole second day showing you how to quickly and easily design presentations so that you never have to memorize anything. In fact, we'll show you how to write an entire speech. Even if you have to give a 60-minute speech or a 2-hour speech or a 3-hour speech, we can show you how to write the entire speech from start to finish in about 15 minutes or less and be able to get up and deliver it immediately, very confidently. I know it sounds like it's kind of challenging, but actually it's a very, very simple process. It's a simple process that a lot of professional speakers can do, and you can do that too if you know a couple of the secrets. And so that's one of the reasons why a lot of folks will really join us and spend that couple of days with us in the Fearless Presentations class. So basically the first few things that you want to keep in mind is most of the stuff that happens to you when you get nervous is stuff that the audience is going to see anyway. The second thing is that you never want to write a presentation out word for word. The third thing that people do that will cause a lot of the fear is they try to memorize their speech. And it really goes right along with the writing the speech word for word, because what will tend to happen is they'll do like what most people do is they'll write their speech out on PowerPoint, slideshow, or something like that, and then they'll try to deliver it, and they'll go, God, this sounds really crappy. This doesn't sound very good, you know? So as a result, they say, oh, maybe if I memorize this thing, I'm going to sound a whole lot better, right? Which basically doesn't even make any sense. You know, if you're trying to memorize something, and you're already nervous, and if you ever lose your train of thought, then that's just going to make your nervousness shoot through the roof, right? So designing the presentation the way we show you how to do in the Fearless Presentations class will actually help you reduce that nervousness, because you don't have to memorize anything. By the way, we're going to cover in the first hour or so of the Fearless Presentations class, we're going to cover 10 things that you can do, and 3 of those those 10 things are the things that I've already covered. I'm going to give you one more though here on the video, just so you can kind of see that it's not just about the way you prepare. A lot of times it's the way you carry yourself too. The way you look in front of the group can actually help you build your confidence as well, because what most people will do when they get nervous is they will kind of grip their hands, or they'll put their hands in front of them. The reason why they do that is because anytime we feel threatened, we want to put something between us and the threat. So if we feel threatened, we're going to put our hands up between us. If you've ever taken like a martial arts class or karate or anything like that, they tell you to get in a fighting stance. When you do that, you put your hands and your feet between the threat. So basically you're putting a barrier between you and the threat. Well, when we get nervous, we feel our body kind of does that automatically. We put our hands up. So a lot of times what will happen is if you have your hands clasped like this in front of you and you want to make a gesture, basically you have to break that clasp, and then the gesture is very weak. What we ask people to do very early on in the class is have them drop their hands down by their side. The reason why is because you look more poised, you look more in control, you look more confident when you drop your hands down by your side. Now, that doesn't mean you keep your hands down by your side. That would be foolish. But what happens is it also frees you now to use your gestures, and when you do use your hands to gesture, it's going to be very powerful. You're going to have big, huge gestures that shows a lot of energy. And that's really one of the secrets to being a great speaker, is looking comfortable and then having a lot of energy when you speak, when you present yourself. So, join us for the 2-day Fearless Presentations class. We've got classes coming up all over the United States, Canada, Europe, in just about every major city. About every 3 or 4 months or so, we'll have a new class pop up. It's a 2-day class. We go from about 9 a.m. in the morning till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And in that 7 or so hours each day, you will grow so much. You will, in fact, by the end of the first day, I can pretty much guarantee what most people say anyway is, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. All of that struggle that I went through, all of those jitters, all of the queasy stomach, the butterflies, the shaky hands, it's gone. It's gone. I wish I'd have done this much, much, much sooner. So join us for the 2-day Fearless Presentations class in your area. There's a registration form down at the bottom of this page that will actually take you to the Fearless Presentations page so that you can get more information about classes that are coming up in your area. See you in Fearless Presentations.